Hello friends and enemies, welcome to, or back to, Happy For Now, it's me Isabel here with a fun one. So I posted on Instagram and my community tab here on YouTube and I asked you what books you thought were my brand. And I have thoughts on what I think is my brand and I want to see how aligned we all are, because I think it's really curious to hear what y'all associate with me and what I would associate with myself as my brand. I definitely think a lot of y'all hit things that I would put on my list. So let's talk about the books in particular. Book-wise, we have books and manga. So book-wise, we have Pucking Around and Only for the Week. Definitely two I could see. Beasts of the Briar, the Immortals After Dark series. Katie Robert, they noted probably because of the Dark Olympus read-along we did. Can definitely see that. And those were the biggest like book ones. Oh, Kathy Yardley for role-playing, I think, as well. Which is interesting that they said Kathy Yardley, because I've only read one book from Kathy Yardley to date. But yeah, I can see these things. These are definitely things I talk about. I wrecked a good bit. I enjoyed a lot. Most of these are books that have ended up in my favorites of the year list. So yeah, tracks. To be associated with these is like a pleasant, happy surprise, I think. And then for manga, it was Yono of the Dawn, a lot of Yono of the Dawn. Also Sweat and Soap, also Tracks, Imakoi, Tracks, especially after the Amazing Readathon, because a lot of people read Imakoi because it was on my favorites list. And then also Nina the Starry Bride. And I was like, yes, absolutely. My babies, you can't see them, they're right here. I love them. I adore them. I'm so happy we got it like released physically. Oh, it's such a good series. And then some other like highlight mentions I got that I think are so funny and very, very accurate. One, May said that Primal Play and Pegging are the two things that she always sends me when she finds them, because there was a hot minute there where I was obsessed with Primal Play. I do still really like Primal Play, but it's gotten to the point where like it's just thrown in as like barely there and it doesn't always work, but that's fine. Same thing for Pegging. We don't get it a lot, but when it happens, it's usually on my TBR. Somebody else said any manga Heather reads, which is also accurate because I do mail Heather boxes of manga occasionally so she can read it and enjoy different stories and participate in 30 and 30. And then someone else said in my Discord, one of my members, said it's not necessarily a thing, but it's a very specific thing I do, which is basically the fandom chestnut of your kink is not my kink, and that's okay. Except for your kink is not my kink, but I have specific recommendations for you. Which is so accurate, because I feel like you would be like, I really like this kink. I'll be like, cool, not for me, but here's this that I read and really liked. Have you tried it? Because I believe one of the biggest things in romance and one of the funnest things as a romance reader is you may not like a kink or like a trope or a thing in a book, but you will read a book with it and you will like that book. So like, I think that's like the funnest thing ever, because it's just delightful to be like, yeah, I don't like surprise pregnancy, but here's a pregnancy book I loved. Hello, Pregnesia. I think it's really fun to be able to explore tropes in romance and read a thing that you don't normally gravitate towards and find one you like. So I appreciated that one. I do try really hard not to yuck anybody's like yums and like make them feel guilty about what they like in a book. But I love when I'm able to like pop out a rec to that. And then another one that I think was key and is accurate to most of the books everyone submitted is that manga and romance are definitely my main things and the things they would associate with me, along with like some other genres sprinkled in. And I would like to think I'm like really good at sprinkling in some other things that are, one, really fun and enjoyable, but two, would appeal to those of us who mainly read romance or manga, to like dip our toes into some other things. Because as much as I love romance, I do have to occasionally like step outside and get something else into my system for a minute to like refresh the palette. And I don't only love romance, I love books in general, so like there's always going to be a book in another genre that could appeal to me or would work for me. Okay, let's talk about the books I would associate with my brand. Immortals After Dark. This is my Cressley Cole shelf. All of my Cressleys are in here. All of them. So yeah, I definitely think Immortals After Dark for sure. One thing I didn't get that I'm surprised didn't show up is bonkers books. So I love a bonkers book. Whether that be, now there's a range of bonkers books in my opinion. We have ones that I've done, it's like an upcoming video you're getting, where I read books about sentient objects and weird food coming to life and things like that. So like Vera Valentine's and others books, right? Like those, I have those books that I'll read. Squeak I read last month. things like that, like like super bonkers books that are definitely like an art form these days, in my opinion. That's a whole other argument we can get into where some people think it's like something it's not, but in my opinion, these books are kind of an art form, a parody to and about and a love song to the genre in a way, because it's not just about like, look at this weird book. I feel like they're often playing with certain expectations in romance or erotic fictions. Anyways, I think those, but also like the bonkers books like Pregnesia, which I already talked about a minute ago, where it just has a bonkers plot and you like can't put it down because it's a bonkers plot. I feel like that I was surprised was not in my brain, because I do think that is my brain. I have not done a bonkers vlog in a while, so I understand it not showing up as well, but I definitely love to read and talk about books that are kind of wild and a good time, where like either you're freaked out or like what on earth is happening, or you're just having such a good time and they're just off the wall banana pants. That's like, I think definitely one of my things. I also super agree with Yona the Dawn or Nina the Starry Bride being things that are part of my brand. I love fantasy romance manga, and I struggle a lot with certain fantasy romance books. So that's always fascinating. Something else I would associate myself with is I have a rec for that. Like generally speaking, if you're like, I'm looking for something really specific, I can find you a book, and if I can't, somebody I know can. But a lot of times I feel like I can find pretty like ultra niche recs. I mean, I also have extensive shelves on my Goodreads for this, and that's part of why. And then the other thing I would say is like smutty manga is kind of my brand, because like a lot of this is smutty manga. I love smutty manga. I've tried most of the steamship titles at this point, you know, like I enjoy picking these up and reading them. But yeah. Okay, one of the other things I think is a big part of me as a content creator in my bookish brand that isn't exactly books, but it is, I am going to always show up as authentically myself as I can, which means to me as a creator, I'm not going to sugarcoat it when I don't like a book, and I'm going to tell you why I didn't like a book or why I DNF'd it, and like really tell you the things. I'm not going to like say, oh, I'm not going to be like, oh, this book, like I'm not going to say like I loved a book that had super problematic things, but also laying those things out to you, which so I feel like that's a big part of my brand also, again, which is like, hey, I love this thing, but there's rampant fat phobia in it, or there's this issue in it. I still loved it, but like we can recognize the issues within the thing we love. Like I feel like that's a big part of my brand, if that makes sense. And I think that's really important. And same thing when I'm DNFing something, I might be like, this is why I didn't like it. If you like this, this, and this, you may like it. I'll give ideas about who may actually connect with the text when I did not. But yeah, I think that's a huge part of my bookish brand as well. And I don't think anyone would have put that down, because I don't know how you would express that as a viewer, but I hope y'all feel that when I talk about books that I love and things I love and enjoy, that it is me showing up as authentically me and in my feelings about the thing as I can, not me just pretending to love things that I didn't necessarily love. Not that other people do that either. I am somebody who just has to show up as me as much as I can behind the camera, because it's weird. If I don't, listen, it's just how I am. What else? I also think why choose has become a big part of my brand lately. I've really been enjoying a lot of why chooses and poly romances, but I also feel like it's more why choose than poly these days that you can find, so that's part of that conundrum. And I feel like, the one other bookish thing I would consider my brand is like semi-niche tropes. So like the primal play or the pegging could be, but also like morality chain. That's really hard to find. And I love it, but it's so hard to find. So yeah, I feel like that's part of my brand. But yeah, I think that covers it. Let me know in the comments if you feel like I missed anything, and if you feel like something is my brand that wasn't mentioned. Or you can just agree with me. I don't care. Take your pick. You can argue with me too. I really don't care. If you don't want to do any of that, let me know what books you would associate with your brand in the comments, because I'm always curious about that, because some of y'all I know in the comments, and I do have books I would associate with you, so I'd be curious if it's the same ones you post and have talked to me about in the comments before. I would be curious. And if you don't want to do any of that, you can leave me a lime emoji. Is there a lime in the emojis? I hope there is, because I just said that and I'm gonna have to edit it if there's not. Yes, there is. Okay, so you can do that. I will have links to the couple books I mentioned down below for you, links to my friend anywhere on the internet, and I will talk to y'all in just a few days. Bye!
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions. We'll get away this is what we